So a fun off-season video idea I thought of is something I did right after the trade deadline that I think has changed so much since then. I wanted to rank every NBA team's future over the next 5 years, take into account a bunch of different factors, your roster right now, the contracts you have on hand. Do I think you have the previous track record of building that continuity, draft picks, all into one in a tier list ranking? So I have 6 different tiers here that we're going to drop all 30 NBA teams into. We have elite future right now, can become elite. Maybe you don't have like the best 5-year outlook, like the best of the best, but you're on the right path right now. Maybe the young core and what you're building, you're in a good spot. Maybe you don't have like the best young core, but you have a good enough core in its prime to at least have like 5 more years of making the playoffs, which is a good spot to be in. Can go either way. Maybe you have big decisions to make. Maybe you're getting out of a rebuild right now and you need to put all the pieces together. It's up to the lottery, right? Like, you could be bad every year, you could be rebuilding, but if you're dropping a 5 every year in the lottery, you're not going to have a chance to draft that top tier guy unless you do take somebody elite at number 5, which is easier said than done, and then not looking good right now. Maybe we're getting to a point where you're going to eventually have to hit that reset button, but we're just delaying the inevitable, which can result in either being in purgatory or missing the playoffs going forward. So we're going to start things off with the Philadelphia 76ers, a very fun place to start. I mean, they used to have an elite future with Ben Simmons, Markel Fultz, Joel Embiid at a time. I think their team, man, it is so tough. Like, there's a part of me that wants to put the Sixers' future as not looking good because I do believe they are just delaying the inevitable, right? Like, yeah, you're stuck with Paul George going forward, and he's probably an untradeable contract unless you're getting a worse contract coming in. Does anybody want to trade for Joel Embiid? But we need to see him healthy. Are we going to ever see him healthy again? It's tough, though, because they have so many good young pieces on this team. I mean, the Maxey contract is getting expensive, but Maxey is still an all-star caliber point guard. You take VJ Edgecombe with the 3rd overall pick. You have Jared McCain, who could have won Rookie of the Year last year. We'll see how he comes off of surgery next year. You also have Justin Edwards, who has shown some flashes. Quentin Grimes is not on the team right now, but I expect him to be back. You have some interesting draft capital going forward as well with, yeah, your first-round pick potentially going to OKC in 2027, but you have potentially a Clippers pick in 2028, a swap in 2029. You may have to give a 2028 first-round pick to Brooklyn, so it's not like their draft pick situation is dire right now. I don't think it's up to the lottery. A part of me wants to say it can go either way for Philadelphia. There is a chance I could say it's not looking good because people could say the Sixers can make it to the conference finals, but we need to see Embiid, one, be healthy and showcase that he could be 2024 Joel Embiid again, because when he was out there last year, he was probably playing injured, but did not look good. Well, Paul George, who suffered another injury this offseason, look good next year. There's a lot of external factors. I don't think it's up to the lottery right now because they're a team that's not trying to like openly tank or quietly tank. For now, I'm going to put them in it's not looking good. And they have the talent. It's just like I said, they may just be delaying the inevitable. I feel like the Toronto Raptors are a team that also could go either way right now because they have good players, but they haven't showcased that they can make the playoffs consistently. We haven't seen Brandon Ingram in a Raptors jersey. He's making a decent amount of money. So is Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl and Scotty Barnes. So it's a big TBD if all these guys can put it together. But I do think they have a good enough roster. They own all their draft capital going forward where they at least have an out if things don't go their way. Now, like Philadelphia, they are a very expensive team next year, $44 million over the cap. They're basically over the first apron, but under the second apron. But you can see almost 75% of their cap space next year is to Barnes, Ingram, Quickley. They also have Poeltl and Jakob, but they just have a deep team, right? Like Ochai Agbaji in the final year of his deal. You drafted Colin Murray-Boyles. You have Grady Dick 2 years left. Jacoby Walter 3 years left. I like the pickup of Mamu. You have Shed and Mobo making basically nothing going forward. They own all their draft capital as well if they wanted to make a trade. I feel like they could end up making one. I know Masai Ujiri isn't there anymore. I feel like they can go either way. It's a weak Eastern Conference. Would you be totally shocked if they were a 6 seed this year and maybe Scotty and Ingram could work out together? And then I would maybe put them in a good spot in a year from now. But right now it can go either way because this is an expensive team. If they don't make the playoffs or don't make the playing tournament, man, maybe their future goes to not looking good or they become it's up to the lottery type team. But I think over the next year, they can go either way. For Detroit, I'm going to say can become elite just because of how young this team is and the leap they took last year. And I know they didn't have a first-round pick in the 2025 draft, but they were able to get Jalen Duren with that a couple years ago. You have a franchise superstar, right? The Toronto Raptors can have that in Scotty Barnes. The Sixers can maybe have that if Embiid can stay healthy, but I trust Cade Cunningham, who was a top 15 player last year, who's an all NBA player. The contract gets very expensive, but I was so high on Cade Cunningham in the draft, and even when the lows were happening over the last few years with Monty Williams and the 2024 Pistons, you have tradable contracts in Duncan Robinson, Isaiah Stewart, Karis LeVert, if you wanted to make a deal, and you have Jaden Ivey, who's going to be very interesting going forward. Like, how does the Ivy extension look in a year from now? I'm super high on Asar Thompson and Ron Holland going forward. I love Jalen Duren in the second half last year and in the playoffs. And they also own total direction of all their first round picks and swaps going forward. So I do believe this can become an elite future just because I feel like the Eastern Conference is wide open. And if Cade becomes a top 10 player in the league next year, which is definitely possible, he has a supporting cast around him. Maybe Detroit can make a move or two. Yeah, they're not a big free agency destination spot. That doesn't really mean too much anymore, but I don't know if any stars are going to want to force their way to Detroit. Like Kevin Durant didn't want to go to Detroit, which would have been a very fun destination for him. There's a chance I could put them in a good spot, but I do feel like, given how young Cade Cunningham is, this could be a team that's making the Eastern Conference playoffs for the next 5+ years. For the Charlotte Hornets, a part of me wants to put it can go either way because we've done the lottery over and over and over again with them, and they could also be a lottery team at the top again next year, and then it's up to the lottery. But I do feel like they can go either way. Like, is LaMelo Ball going to showcase that he could be a franchise point guard for you going forward, or is he just not going to buy in? He's not going to stay healthy. How is Brandon Miller going to look? I'm super high on Miller next year, but what if it doesn't go well? You have Miles Bridges, who's a fine player. You have Sexton, who's a fine player. Same with Josh Green, Grant Williams. I'm super high on Con Knipple. I thought they aced the draft. You have Trey Mann, the wild card of Tijon Salon. They're going to have the worst center rotation, or one of the worst center rotations next year as well. I don't think it's up to the lottery to dictate their future. I actually like the core they have right now, even if they get the 7th overall pick next year. I just need to see this team stay healthy. So the can go either way is basically health of this team. Because I do believe if LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Con Knipple, and Miles Bridges all play 70 games next year, there is a good chance the Hornets can at least win 34, 35 games, which is a big step in the right direction for this team. So I feel like they can go either way. But if LaMelo doesn't work out and they have to take a step back by trading him, or maybe Brandon Miller doesn't reach that ceiling we thought he could reach after his rookie year, they could just kind of be, it's not looking good once again. I think for the Washington Wizards, it's up to the lottery and maybe the young core. Like, they're going to be bad again this year. And I feel like they're also a team that can go either way. Now, they don't have anybody on their team as good as LaMelo Ball. And maybe not Brandon Miller either. I think it'll be interesting if you ask somebody in December, do you like Trey Johnson or Brandon Miller going forward, right? If Trey Johnson is great out of the gate. And I don't want to be like a Wizards future hater right now, but a lot of these guys are unproven. There's been a lot of discourse on Twitter lately and a lot of debate about Alex Sarr because the Athletic left him off his or their 2024 redraft in the top 10. And Sarr was bad last year, but I still believe in him going forward. I didn't think he was going to be good right away and was going to be a little bit more of a project. This is a big 3 for Bilal Coulibaly because he looked good to start off last year, but was not good in the second half. Can Bub Carrington be good next year? Cam Whitmore is a wild card. AJ Johnson, Keyshawn George, Will Riley. A lot of wild cards here. And I also think if this team ends up with the 6th or 7th overall pick next year, it's not going to be as encouraging of a future if this team is able to land a Cameron Boozer, an AJ DeBansa, or a Darren Peterson. And we know that they are going to tank next year, right? Like Will Dawkins during the summer league, that he was asked, like, do you think this team could maybe compete in a wide open East? And his response was basically, we don't want to skip steps. We know their pick is top 8 protected to the New York Knicks. They're going to do everything in their power to keep that pick, unless they have a Pistons type week next year. But who do you think could be like a Cade Cunningham type player on this team in 2026? I don't think many. So Miami, I think there can go either way just because Pat Riley has done it in the past. He can maybe do it again. This team has been very mid over the last few years since their 2023 finals team, in which in the regular season they were mid, and then Jimmy just went God mode in the playoffs. Jimmy is no longer there. They have a solid team in the Eastern Conference. They basically got Norman Powell for free this offseason, but they just penny pinched by trading away Hayward Highsmith to Brooklyn and a salary dump. I love the extension for Davion Mitchell. Who knows if Rozier is going to be on this team next year, but Wiggins is a good player. Hero and Bam, I think, could be good again next year. Bam more so of a bounce back year. I like Ware going forward. Jovic is a maybe. Fontecchio is a maybe. Hawkins is a maybe. I love the value of Kasparis. Now this team does own a future first-round pick to the Charlotte Hornets in 2027. They should get their 2026 first-rounder now since they made the playoffs last year and gave it to OKC. A part of me wants to put it's not looking good, but I think I just trust the foundation of Miami a little bit more than Philadelphia. Philadelphia has a higher ceiling for sure next year, but like I said, we're just delaying the inevitable. I think Miami is not too leveraged into what their core is right now. For Dallas, I feel like they're in a good spot. I don't know if I want to put they can become elite because I do think they're going to be a good team next year. And them adding Cooper Flag completely changed the outlook because if they don't get Cooper Flag, right, and say they end up making the playoffs or say they end up with like the 13th pick and they select somebody like a Derek Queen, right, for example, I would put them in like it's not looking good or can go either way. But the fact they got Cooper Flag changes everything because Anthony Davis and Kyrie are no spring chickens, right? Like 32, 33. Clay's getting up there in age. They extend Gafford. Like, this is a good team. This is a deep team in 2026. And even in 2027, they have a ton of guys under contract. Basically, everybody not named PJ Washington and D'Angelo Russell because Derek Lively has a team option as well. They have two good centers. They have an elite power forward in Anthony Davis if he can stay healthy. They have an elite point guard in Kyrie Irving if he can come back healthy. And Cooper Flag is going to be, 18 years old when he plays his first NBA game. They're going to in a good spot. I mean, Cooper Flag has never played an NBA game yet, but we all assume how he's going to be, right? Like, we all think he's going to be an all-star one day. They can become elite and then eventually can become elite if Cooper Flag can be a top 15, top 10 player in the league one day. But right now, I'm going to say Dallas is in a good spot just because of the 2025 lottery gods, because there's a chance they were going to be maybe here if things did not go their way. Golden State. Oh my God, man. For the future, I'm going to say it's not looking good just because that doesn't mean they're going to be bad in 2026. I think the Warriors are going to be a playoff team next year. It's just, what is life going to be after Steph Curry? I said this is going to be a 5-year tier list. And if I think you're going to be good in the next 2 years, but it's going to be dark the next 3, that could be this version here of the Golden State Warriors. Right now, we have no idea, at least when I'm recording this, right? Like, the Kuminga situation could be figured out. That could maybe change just a little bit, but Steph's going to be 38. Jimmy's going to be up there in age. Draymond's going to be up there in age. They all essentially have 2 years left on their deals. That's probably, I don't know if Steph's going to play into his 40s. Maybe he does. But do you believe in the Moses Moody, Brandon Bojemski, Quidden Post young core going forward? Now, they own most of their first round picks going forward. There's a chance they have to give Washington their first rounder in 2030, but that means they're good then. So they do own pretty much direction of their first round picks moving forward. But I just don't think the Warriors' future is looking good. They don't have a 26-year-old Luka Doncic in their hands. So for the next 5 years, I do think Denver is going to be elite for the next 5 years. That's what I was going to do for this tier list, not the next 10 years, because Nikola Jokic is 30 years old. I still think he will be a top 10 player in the league because he's going to be 35 in 5 years. And we know Jokic is elite, not because of his athleticism. So I don't think his game is going to change too much. And they just traded away a 2032 first round pick for Cam Johnson, who's under control for the next 2 years. Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray are also under contract till 2029. I expect Jokic to re-sign with this team. If I didn't, then I would maybe bump them down a little bit more. But as long as you have Jokic, you're going to be at the top of the Western Conference. They're probably going to extend Brown. You have Holmes, you have Watson, you have Strother, you have Brown. I mean, this team does own also a decent amount of draft capital to move eventually. Like in 2026, they will get their first round pick because this website has to update it, but Orlando got their first in 26. Like 27, they're probably gonna have to give a first round pick away. And in 2032, they're gonna have to give their first round pick away from the Michael Porter Jr. trade, but they'll also have some other flexibility to make some moves going forward with swaps and additional draft capital. And you have the best player in the world, in my opinion, a future Hall of Famer and a future top 10 player of all time when it's all said and done. So I do think Denver will still be elite for the next 5 years. I think there's a chance they can win the finals next year as well. For the Lakers, I'm going to say it could become elite, right? I could go back and forth with they're in a good spot. I don't think it's an elite future just yet because Luka Doncic is 26 years old. He just signed that extension, which is great for LA and is probably going to sign a massive extension in the offseason of 2028. But LeBron is not going to be on this team in 5 years, or at least we don't think, right? Reeves is in a contract year, and it's not really a good team after Luka Doncic. Now, they can have max cap space in 2026 and in 2027. The first round pick situation is a little bit bleak because they do have to give a first in 2027, but they own their first this year. And this pick is top 4 protected. They owe Dallas a first. So they actually, it's not that bleak, right? They have more flexibility. They could trade some swaps. They could trade a 2032 unprotected first. So they could definitely add around Luka Doncic. The only big, caveat is, can they add around Luka Doncic? Can Rob Pelinka put the optimal team around Luka like Nico Harrison did at one point in Dallas to make Luka a top 3 player in the league again one day? And they can become a team that we're predicting to make it to the conference finals year in and year out. So the Pistons have a better depth, but Luka still has a higher ceiling than Cade as a player in this league. For the Pelicans, oh my God. Well, it's not up to the lottery anymore because they traded away their first round pick. It's just are we delaying the inevitable with Zion Williamson, something they should have pulled the plug on a couple years ago? I think they're probably similar in a way to Charlotte and Miami going forward. Because it going either way is if Zion can stay healthy, can Trey Murphy take a leap, can Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen showcase that they were good enough to be selected in the lottery, and then this team can be solid going forward, right? Because the Zion contract's non-guaranteed, so they're at least going to free up 25% of their cap space, or at least $40 million if they decide to waive him. But that means he's just not healthy, doesn't want to be there anymore. But then maybe they could trade him. Jordan Poole, I mean, that trade was interesting, but Poole can probably be better in 2 years than McCollum would have been. The Murray contract doesn't look great, but it'll be eventually off the books. I like the extension for Herb Jones, although it's going to get expensive if he doesn't become, I think, a little bit better offensively. Murphy, I think a big, like TBD for them, can be the leap he has. And then they have like Hawkins, Neeb Misi, and those guys going forward. I still can't believe they traded away their first rounder next year, which is crazy. But they do own Milwaukee's 2027 first and all their first as well if they were going to make an eventual trade. So I feel like they can go either way. They're kind of like the Raptors, I feel like, of the Western Conference in a way. Atlanta, I'm going to say, oh man, I kind of want to put them in, can go either way, but I think they're in a good spot. I mean, the one thing for them is like, could Trae Young actually leave in a year from now? Or is he just waiting till day one that he's an unrestricted free agent and can sign like a massive deal? If he makes like an All-NBA team this year, can get close to the Supermax. You have Kristaps, who's a good player, but an expiring contract, can't stay healthy sometimes. Jalen Johnson is under a fantastic contract going forward. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, good player. We'll see if he can live up to the contract. Okongwu's on a good deal. Reece Shea, the number one pick. Dyson Daniels, one most improved player last year. Asa Newell, Vic Krejci. It's a good team that doesn't have the best draft pick situation either going forward because they have to swap with San Antonio next year. They have to owe San Antonio their 27 first, but in 2026, they get that Pelicans Bucks pick from the Derek Queen trade, which is very intriguing, and they get the swap worse between Milwaukee and New Orleans in 27. So they do own, like, okay draft capital going forward. They have some Cleveland swaps from the DeAndre Ayton trade. I think they're in a good spot, but if Trae Young leaves, they're dropping down a little bit, but I'll say they're in a good spot right now. The Clippers, oh man, it could really go either way. So you might be like, this might be a little hypocritical just because I do think the Clippers are going to be better than the Warriors next year, but they also don't have a young core in place after this aging roster. So you might be like, Matt, who's on this roster after 2 years? Now, Harden, Zubats, like they're all younger, or a couple of these guys are younger than Steph, like Kawhi is a couple years younger than Steph. Harden, around the age of Steph, but still younger. Zubats is 28, better than anybody on the Warriors after their big three retires. They have Derek Jones for one more year. They have a Bogey tradable contract. You have Batum, you have Beal, who could be on this team or off this team in a year from now. They just drafted Yannick Niederhauser. So I totally agree. And their draft pick situation is probably not as good as Golden State's because they owe their 26 away, 27, 28, 29. And then do they owe their 20? I don't know. Like their draft pick situation gets kind of interesting going forward. So that's why I think it can go either way. They will have max cap space. Like Chris Paul, I mentioned too, will be off this team in basically a year from now or two. They can have cap space in 27. So yeah, we'll see if Ballmer does something. Part of me wants me to put them there, but I do think like, hey, they win a title, then that showcase they had a good future. I do think they have a better chance at winning it all next year than Golden State. And they have Zubats and they'll have cap flexibility going forward in a desirable market for people to sign. OKC, this is obviously elite, right? Like they just won the NBA Finals last year and they kept everybody on their roster besides Dylan Jones, but they're bringing in Nikola Topic and Thomas Sorber. Now, a big thing everybody was talking about this offseason was with the second apron, right? It's kind of depleted the Boston Celtics and some other teams over the years. Are we going to see that happen with the OKC Thunder with Shea, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren making up 85% of their cap space at one point in 2028 with these extensions kicking in, right? Like, can you afford Caruso? Can you afford Dort, Joe, Wiggins? Probably can't afford Hartenstein, Mitchell, Wallace, and they still have so many draft picks going forward, which gives them flexibility in trades, but also they're not going to be able to sign all these draft picks either. So even though with the aprons today, you need to hit on some draft picks, right? Like that's how you work around the aprons, getting cheap, cost-effective guys that can be in your rotation in a playoff series. They have the best player in the regular season last year because he won MVP in Shea, who was just your finals MVP. The Thunder definitely have a better future than Denver, but I do think they both have elite futures. You could probably put OKC in their own tier. San Antonio, they have Wemby. So, like, yeah, they could become elite because we haven't seen them make the playoffs with Wemby yet. But it's like Wemby's in a different tier than Cade Cunningham. And Luka is like a top 5-ish player in the NBA. But the Spurs should be better next year. Fox, I think, could be a top 10 point guard. It's an expensive contract. But you also have Dylan Harper. You have Wemby. You have Stephon Castle, Sohan, Bryant, Champagnie, Devin Vassell, and you own decent amount of draft capital. So, like, yes, the Lakers maybe have somebody that's better right now in Luka. But Wemby could be better than Luka in 5 years. Plus, they have so many other pieces around Wemby that is just a better situation than what the Lakers have around Luka. Yes, they have cap space, but We don't know for sure if they're going to sign somebody. San Antonio also owns Atlanta swap in 26 and unprotected in 27. They own a Boston pick in 2028, or at least a swap there. They own some picks in 2029 from Dallas, Minnesota, Sacramento going forward. So they're in a great spot. I do think it's an elite future in San Antonio, even if they're not a playoff team in 2026, which they could definitely be one. Minnesota, I mean, they have Anthony Edwards, right? I want to say that they're in a good spot because they've already ran into the second apron issues. Gobert probably doesn't have too many elite years left in his career. Randall's getting to the wrong side of 30. They just extended him. But you have McDaniels and Reed who fit the Anthony Edwards timeline. But Rob Dillingham is still unproven. Terrence Shannon Jr. is still mostly unproven. Can Jalen Clark take a step? Is Johan Berenger going to be a legit center for this team going forward? And this team does not own a ton of draft capital because they still have some of the Gobert picks to give out, but they still have something going forward, and they traded that first rounder for Rob Dillingham. You know what? Like, they just made it to back-to-back conference finals. They can always be there with Anthony Edwards, and maybe they make a big move one day to get a better co-star around Anthony Edwards. So I'll say they can become elite. I do feel like what they've done over the last few years, and like Ant, I think has a higher ceiling than like Trae Young, obviously, and is better right now. And I think I would be shocked if Cooper Flag is better than Anthony Edwards in 5 years, just because I think Ant can be a top 5 player for the next 5 years. Sacramento, I don't think it's looking good. I mean, it could eventually be up to the lottery, but I feel like for them, we're also just delaying the inevitable with this team. Nobody really wants to trade for the Sabonis contract. I feel like maybe in an offseason from now we get there. Nobody wants this Levine contract. DeRozan is 36 years old. Malik Monk, they've been trying to move this offseason. They just gave Schroeder a 3-year deal, or potentially a 3-year deal. Keegan Murray's been taking some steps backwards. Devin Carter and Nick Clifford, Keanu, like mostly Carter and Clifford are unproven, but I'm excited about them next year. Who knows? Like, Ellis can be an unrestricted free agent in a year from now, but he can get the most money from Sacramento. And Sacramento does own like their draft capital in 2026 now. They just own an additional, well, they traded away the Spurs pick to OKC for Nick Clifford. And they do own a swap to San Antonio later on. I don't think it's looking good. I think it's eventually going to be up to the lottery. I think they're going to be a competitive play-in team, but the not looking good in the NBA is just delaying the inevitable. I think for Golden State, it's just the max, like the uncertainty with their aging core. And I know they made it further than the Clippers last year, but the Clippers drew the Nuggets. The Warriors were able to draw the Rockets in round number 1. And I feel like if the Clippers had the Rockets and the Timberwolves, they would have been in the conference finals. And I feel like if the Clippers and the Warriors, like, all their veterans retired in 2 years and both of them had max cap space, I feel like teams would want to go to like the Intuit Dome, the LA area under Steve Ballmer, than signing with the Warriors, who I feel like they're not going to take like a massive like market hit once Steph retires, but it's not going to be great. I'm going to say they're going to definitely take a little bit of a hit. For Phoenix, man, I want to say it's not looking good still, just because they own none of their draft capital going forward. It's crazy. Now, they can get creative with offseason moves. They've even tried to get Kuminga this offseason as well. And I know they're excited about Jalen Green, and I'm excited about him in a new environment as well. But Booker is going to be 30 soon. He's going to be making 60+ million eventually. Dylan Brooks is under control for the next 2 years. Grayson Allen maybe doesn't have the best contract in the world. Neither does Royce O'Neal. Can Mark Williams stay healthy? Come on. It's not a guarantee that he's going to be like an elite rim protector one day, but can be. And their young core is a lot better this offseason, but it's still not elite by any means. I like Rasheer Fleming. I like Kobe Brea. It's just the draft pick situation is so bleak. They don't own a first next year. In 2027, it's a swap. They don't own it, or in 2028, it's a swap as well. 2029, that like these are all swaps, or they don't own it till 2032. Which is insane. Now, they're not in the second apron anymore, so they will have sign and trade flexibility. But when you're looking at the Western Conference, maybe in 3 years, they're a playoff team. Hey, maybe they're a playoff team in 2026, right? There's always teams that make the playoffs that we don't expect them to. I just think with the lack of draft capital, it's not even up to the lottery where they have like a potential out there. It's just like, are we delaying the inevitable of trading Devin Booker or having those discussions? And this is Damian Lillard 2.0 from when he was in Portland. Speaking of Damian Lillard 2.0, I think for the Trailblazers, they're in a good spot right now. It could definitely become elite, but a part of me also maybe wants to put them and could go either way, just because, yes, they were so exciting to watch last year, and I loved watching Denny Avdia and Toumani Camara for this team. But what if Scoot Henderson doesn't reach the potential that we think he could, right? Like, this is a big year 3 for Scoot, and they're getting Damian Lillard back in 2027. Like, how does he work with Scoot? Shaedon Sharpe, I think, could take a leap as well, but what if he doesn't, right? Like, Shaedon Sharpe showed flashes last year, but it's not a guarantee that he's going to be an all-star one day. Drew is 35, and what if he just takes a little bit of regression next year? The contract isn't great. Like, they're going to be paying, most likely, 40% of their cap space over the 27 to 28 span to Drew Holiday and Jeremy Grant. Now, Dame could also opt out of after the 27 season, and he can make $30+ million a year in 2028, and that's an aging core of Jeremy Grant, Drew Holiday, and Damian Lillard. And right now might be the best time to like invest into these guys, which I get it because Denny Avdija is making maybe like he's got probably the best bang for your buck contract in the NBA that descends over time. It's just there's a lot of unknowns. Like Klingon looked good, but will he be good? Hansen Yang is a big project for sure, but they also own the Milwaukee Bucks first round picks in 28, in 29. They own a Celtics first in 2030. Like that's what gives me hope for this team. So I think I'm going to put them in a good spot because the draft picks are great that also aren't their first round picks. So they could be like an 8 seed, 7 seed and potentially get a number 1 pick from Milwaukee going forward. I think there is a chance it can become elite, like if Scoot and Sharp, but right now I just think they're in a good spot. For the Utah Jazz, this is also easy. It's up to the lottery / young core. You could say that for the Wizards and the Jazz. The Jazz have this massive market and extension. We'll see. Like if he takes another step back this year, it doesn't look as good as he did in 23 or 24. Are they going to be able to trade him for anything meaningful coming back? You have Ace Bailey, who I'm so happy that he ended up in Utah. That's what I'm excited about. Same with Bryce Sensabaugh, Walker Kessler, Keontae George, Collier Clayton. Big ifs, though, for Cody Williams. How is Hendricks going to look off the injury going forward? It's not even a guarantee Keontae George is going to be a long-term asset for this team. I like Filipowski going forward. They also own a decent amount of draft capital as well. So, like, they own Timberwolves first, Cavs first, but those teams are going to be good for the next few years. They own a Lakers first, which looks a little bit better, or looks worse now that they have Luka Doncic. That Suns 2031 first is probably the most intriguing one. So for the Jazz, it's really up to the lottery and their young core. There's too many unprovens on this roster. There's guys that have massive year 3s coming up. And they have the draft picks where it should be better than these guys below them right now, because hopefully these are the worst days. And maybe for these 4 teams, the worst days are kind of still ahead. Houston, I think they have an elite future as well. It's not always comforting when your best player is on an expiring contract, which I think he'll sign an extension with, but is also like 37 years old. Like how many more elite years does Kevin Durant have? But they should be an elite team this year. Şengün was an all-star last year at 22. Like you have Fred VanVleet, a good veteran right now, but he's getting older. Same with Adams and Finney Smith. It's not a guarantee that Jabari Smith Jr. is going to be a great player for this team either. Like it's a big if, but he does have the potential. Same with Reed Shepherd. But it's just like Tari Eason's defense I trust. Amen Thompson I trust to be a star one day and an all-star. And same with Şengün. So you at least have a good young core and the potential to have a great young core if like Shepherd and Jabari Smith Jr. can take that leap going forward. They also have, it seems like a smart front office with Raphael Stone, a coach people like in Ime Udoka, and they also own some draft capital going forward. So this year it's a swap from the Westbrook trade, but in 2027, they own Brooklyn's and Phoenix's first. They own Brooklyn in a swap and Phoenix unprotected first. That is so valuable. And a 2029 first round pick from Phoenix as well. Plus all their first round picks that if this goes to a disaster with Kevin Durant, or at least the way they don't want it to go and they never make it to a conference finals, they're going to be just fine going forward. So they're elite in my opinion. For Memphis, I feel like they can go either way as well. Like, I don't think for Memphis, we're delaying the inevitable. They traded Desmond Bane this offseason, gave up one of those first to go out and get Cedric Howard, who I like for this team specifically and how they draft. And they also have a future Suns pick in 26, which could be top 10. I actually think Memphis is going to be more competitive than people think next year. So I don't think their pick is going to be top 10 before the lottery. It could definitely end up within the top 10 after the lottery. Ja was great in the second half. Jaren Jackson Jr. was good enough. Like, there's a reason why they gave him a massive extension. You have tradable contracts in Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark, Ty Jerome over the next few years. Like, Zach Edey is never going to be an all-star one day, but could be a solid center. Coward could be a good role player. Jalen Wells has already proven to be a good role player. Gigi Jackson has shown some flashes. Not as optimistic for Vince Williams now at 25, but they have better draft capital. They own all their first. They own a 26th Orlando Magic first round pick, or no, that's part of the swap, but they own the 29 unprotected swap as well. So they have some draft capital going forward. They own their first. I trust Zach Kleiman, although it did feel like in 2022, they were the team that was going to be like up here in elite. After 2022, they would have been up here, but now they're in like, can go either way. Like, I trust John Triple J. I actually might put Memphis in a good spot because like John Triple J are way more proven than like Denny and Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. And their draft capital isn't as good as Portland's, but I think like the talent they have makes up for it right now. So I'm going to say Memphis is in a good spot going forward. They may not be like, yeah, top 6 seed for the next 2 years, but I trust them if they just put the right pieces around Ja and Triple J. Orlando, I do think it's elite, man. I mean, there's a chance I could drop them down to can become elite just because is this ownership willing to be a second apron team? Because you just traded for Desmond Bane. Look at all these contracts in 2028. Now, luckily, Jalen Suggs descends, but man, you're going to have to be comfortable. Like, they may have to gut the roster around this big four because, like, there's a chance Carter Jr., Isaac, and, like, some of these guys are not on the roster. That's why they need De Silva, Penda, Jace Richardson to pan out. They need Anthony Black to pan out because this team is so, like, leveraged into their top core of Franz, Paolo, Bane, and Suggs. Now, that's a fine core to be there. Now, they haven't made it to a conference finals. They haven't won a playoff series, but I think Paolo could be a top 5 player one day. I think Franz could be a top 15 player one day. Bane is one of the best shooters in the league, and Suggs is one of the best defenders in the league when he's healthy. So, in a weak Eastern Conference, I do believe they have an elite future. For the Indiana Pacers, I don't know right now. I think they're just in a good spot just because who knows how Haliburton looks after the Achilles injury. I'm going to like to assume that he's going to be okay, but now they have no center long-term in Miles Turner now in Milwaukee. Siakam on the wrong side of 30, and we're not going to see him until the 2027 season with Haliburton. Who knows? That could be a rehab year for Haliburton. He's good again in 28, but then that's the last year of Siakam. He's going to be 33, 34. Nembhard, we'll see if he can step up in the role. Are they going to extend Neesmith in a year from now? Are they going to extend Mathurin? McConnell's up there in age as well. Big ifs with Ajax can be something and Jarris Walker. Now, they do have their first round pick as well next year. So are they going to be picking in the lottery? They also own all their first round picks going forward to make a trade. I can't say for sure that they're going to be back in the NBA finals within the next 5 years. As much, man, it's tough. It's just the Haliburton injury scares me. It really does. So I do like in a good spot is in a good spot for sure. Like maybe you can put them in can become elite. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to put them in can become elite just because back-to-back conference finals. And like the big if like Cade can take them there, if they can use cap space, if they can get a co-star, that's better than what they have. I think I can use the if Haliburton can return healthy. For Milwaukee, it's not looking good. I mean, there's a chance you could put it and can go either way. But like if I don't have a guarantee that if I show you guys this, like Giannis is extension eligible on October 1st, 2026. If he showcases that he does not want to extend with this team, you have to trade him. This would be worse than what the Nets were after KG and Paul Pierce. Like you're taking a massive hit, like when Kevin Durant left OKC for nothing. And this team is like, it's a good roster. It is not a title contender in my opinion right now until we see Kuzma bounce back, Ryan Rollins take a leap, Kevin Porter Jr. take a leap, because this team has also a Phoenix Suns level draft capital. The next first round pick they own is until 2031. They do not own direction of their first rounder until 2031, which is insane. I just don't think it's looking good right now in Milwaukee just because of Giannis. Now, Giannis alone, like at 30 years old, is better than almost any asset out here outside of Jokic and maybe Shea and Wemby. So like you could say they're elite. If Giannis signs an extension, they can become elite or they're in a good spot. I just don't know with Giannis, and that just scares me. For Brooklyn, it's going to be up to the lottery. This team is going to be really bad for the next few years. And will players want to sign with them? We'll see. They have a ton of draft capital, but will they hit on Yegor? Will they hit on Traore, Powell, Saraf, Danny Wolf? They own their first round pick this year, which is good, but then it's a swap worse in 2027. But they own some Sixers picks, they own some Knicks picks, and they own majority of their first round picks going forward after that Houston one in 2027. So it's really up to the lottery for the Brooklyn Nets right now. There's a chance you could put them in not looking good, but I do think it's up to the lottery for the next few years. We have 4 Eastern Conference teams remaining. For the New York Knicks, I'm going to say they're in a good spot. Maybe they could become elite as well, right? Like the Knicks, maybe it is elite. Like if you think the Knicks can contend for the NBA Finals out of the East for the next 5 years, because Anunoby's 28, Brunson, like Bridges, Hart, Cat, they're all in their primes. We'll see with the flexibility they have right now. They do not have a good young core. They do not have as much draft flexibility as they had a year ago because they mortgaged most of their future draft pick wise for Mikal Bridges, who's a good player, not like a ceiling raiser, and like a Donovan Mitchell type player that the Cavs mortgaged their future for. So we'll see what this team ends up doing. They were just in the conference finals. They made it to round 2 the previous 2 years. They're going to be favorites to make it to the conference finals again this year. They're up there with the Cavs as the best odds in the Eastern Conference. And I trust the front office. We'll see how Mike Brown looks. I'm going to say actually for the Knicks that, yeah, they could become elite, right? Like if Mike Brown is the guy, if they can go to the finals this year, like for the next 5 years, they can get more wins than Orlando. Like that's not out of the equation for sure. Cleveland, I think they have an elite future for the next 5 years. Even if things go south again this year, I know they haven't made it to a conference finals since LeBron left in 2018. Donovan Mitchell has never made it to a conference finals in his career. But like you have Donovan Mitchell guaranteed for the next 2 years. And if You think he's going to leave. You're going to get a haul for him if you trade him. Evan Mobley is one of the best young players in the league who just won Depoy. Like, Garland, not a good defender. Maybe he's a little expensive, but is still an all-star level point guard. Hunter's under control. They're willing to pay the second apron tax. You have Jared Allen under control as well. You have, like, Dean Wade, Jalen Tyson, Samuel, Monzo Ball, Strus, like, good role players, and more so in, like, Tyson and Proctor, like, potential good young players in this league. They did trade away a lot of their first-round picks. Like, they don't own a direct first-round pick till 2030, which is still more recent than the Suns and the Bucks. I think they have an elite future, though. Like, maybe they don't win a finals, but I can say out of any team in the East, I trust them the most to probably have the most regular season wins over the next 5 years in the East. Like, Orlando, New York, Detroit have a chance for that. Maybe Boston as well, who we'll get to. I think for Chicago, it's not looking good either. Another delaying the inevitable team. I want to put them, it's up to, like, the lottery for them. But, like, are they ever going to flat out tank? Like, Vucevic still on the roster, probably his last year here. They are going to have cap space at the end of the year, depending on the Giddey extension, if that ever happens. What is the Kobe White extension is like going to look like? Is he going to get north of $30 million a year? Is Montes Buzelis going to take a step? Essengay's a project, but how does he look going forward? Now, the Bulls own all their draft picks going forward, which is good. They own, like, a lot of protected Blazers pick for the next few years, which will come into seconds if it's not conveyed by 28. But also another front office and ownership group that I just don't trust. So I think it's not looking good for the Bulls. And for Boston, I want to say they can become elite again. It's funny because I was looking at what I did after the deadline and they were elite. I mean, you have Jason Tatum. I think it's like the Jason Tatum. Oh, man. I still think they could become elite. Like, for Boston, though, like, so Drew, KP are gone. Tatum is still the big if, like, Halliburton. How does he look off the Achilles tear? Only Kevin Durant has showcased, like, in the NBA that, like, you could be the guy off the Achilles tear. Jaylen Brown is making a lot of money. What if he doesn't look good as a number one? How does that affect his dynamic in Boston? Derek White is on the wrong side of 30, but it's still got many good years left. Simons isn't expiring. Peyton Pritchard is still under a great contract. They own some good draft capital. Like, what if Hugo Gonzalez becomes something? They have their 26 first. Like, what if that's a good pick? They own 27. They just don't own 2028 and 2029. From the Drew and the Derek White trades. Like, that's not bad whatsoever. So I do think Boston has an elite future. So I have 4 Western Conference teams, 3 Eastern Conference teams in elite. I can become elite for the Pacers that Halliburton returns to health. Detroit, like, they can build the team around Cade. They can build the team around Luka. And the Knicks young core does not just fall off a cliff. Or they're not young core, but they're core right now. Dallas, does Nico Harrison mess this up? How do they look going forward? Atlanta with Trae Young. Memphis has a good spot, but they still need to get better going forward. And Portland has a good young core that could become a great young core this year. Can go either way. Toronto's expensive, but we'll see if they all work together. They need LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller to stay healthy. What is Miami doing going forward with the roster they have? Can Zion stay healthy? And how does the next 2 years look for the Clippers, as well as the 2027 free agency? It's up to the lottery. These teams are going to be bad next year, but they have, at least for Washington and Utah, a solid enough young core, but it's still a little bit unproven. And you never know with the lottery. And they're not looking good. I put more teams in here than I thought. Golden State is one that can go either way as well with the cap space. But I'm going to put them in not looking good right now. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with down below. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.